Is this on? Can you hear me? Perfect. Well, I've been looking very much forward to today to speaking to you all. First of all, you know my name. My name is Malene Madsen, CEO and co-founder of VOBA, and I have a background in psychology and philosophy, where I've specialized in the mental key drivers to a healthy workplace. But for the next 20 minutes, I will take you for a short journey down my memory lane. And I will first of all show you and tell you some stories from my childhood so you can understand a bit what I'm constituted of. Um, and then, of course, I will give you some business advice and good personal stories I have from my journey as a first time founder. So, if you're ready for that. Um, so, the first years of my life, I lived in the north of Zealand with my three siblings, mother and a father. We were a family of the working class, so we did not have much, but there was definitely a lot of love. Um, when I was 5 years old, my father was diagnosed with lung cancer and died, which was a huge trauma for me and my family. Um, I remember that my mom had to work like 9 hours a day just to give us food on the table. But despite this horrible situation, I still see the clarity that she had and the love she gave me, which has been a crucial foundation for my self-worth today. Um, so a few years later, my mom met another husband, and they decided to move to a little town called Tølløse, which from my perspective was sent from hell. Um, and indeed it was. There are not many kids there that are breaking the like social patterns. Um, but um, but what happened there was that my mom got in a car accident and got a very bad whiplash that broke her entirely, and she had to retire early from work. So the mom I remembered that I loved so much and gave me everything was suddenly gone. Um, so when I look back, probably it's an unconscious decision, but I chose to seek out, and I found another world, which was the world of skateboarding. Um, and at that time, skateboarding was my whole world. There was nothing else in my life. I wanted to be the best skater in the world. And I quickly found out that I was the only girl skating. But I didn't think about it at that time. I just wanted to be very good. Um, and I remember I met some incredible boys that took me in as one of them. And we managed to create my first company in a way, or found it when I was 12. It was called Deadheads. It's not longer alive. Uh, where we produced our own skateboards, made our own logo, T-shirt, and sold it to local skate shops. And 1.5 years later, I got sponsored as the first girl in Denmark by Carhartt and Vans. And they took me around Europe for competitions and contests and everything. And it was an amazing time for me in my life. And also to have people around me that really supported me. Um, so it probably sounds like when I did skateboarding at this high level, I had nothing else in my life, which was not entirely true. I have always been kind of a nerd. I really love school, books, and knowledge. So after university, I was kind of in an identity crisis because, in a way, my parents were not there. They're not academics, so I had to figure out what to do. What's the next natural step? So I took a loan of 50,000 kroners and and traveled the world around with my good friend Björn, and Yeah. And we went to Mexico, Brazil, and California, Nepal, and India. And seriously, it was the best decision in my life. For the first time, I saw myself from a distance. I've experienced a lot of chaos in a way, so I could redefine myself and my own values and what I believed in. And the next natural step for me was to go to university and study psychology and philosophy. So I could talk so much more about that period of my life, but to make a little flash forward to my master's, because it's really important time of my life to understand why my company is what it is today. So during my master's, I was hired as a research assistant for Center for Moderne Arbejdsliv. And I met one of the greatest mentors I've ever met, Henrik Rosenstjerne. And Henrik's heart beat it for preventing stress, work-related stress. And in a way, he took me out to a lot of companies in Denmark and showed me what he called the ineffective solutions. So I chose to write a thesis about that. And because of the content of my thesis after my master, Henrik chose to finance my PhD. And I just remember I was so happy because for the first time in my life, I was in a way feeling that I had secure foundation under me. I had my funding for my PhD. I was going to be a scientist. So I remember it was one Christmas morning in 2015 where I got a call from Henrik's wife, and she said to me, Henrik died in a car accident last night. And like right there, my whole world just fell apart. I did not only lose my single dream at that time about being a researcher, I also lost an incredible human being that believed 100% in me and my vision. So how do you cope with that? So I remember I sat there and looked at the wall for many weeks in a way, and then I remember Henrik told me and said to me, Malene, I think, or I know that you have the ability to change the HR industry for the better, so you have to promise me, if you don't write that PhD, you have to start your own company. So that's what I did. So what happened after that epiphany? Well, I was on dagpenge. How do you say that in English? Universal credit. Exactly, something like that. And then I used those money for writing a business plan. So really taking advantage of the system. And then I remembered that a good guy that I wrote the thesis with, Mikkel Bindesbøl, had the same passion as me, and he was head of sales for Puk Healthcare. So I could really see a good founder constellation between me and my visionary strategic thinking and domain expertise and his more like sales execution. So we founded Woba in 2016. We just got an initial investment. It was not much. But hell, guys, it has been a bumpy road. Why? I will now try to share some of the most important tools I have used to balance my mental health as a first-time founder. So, any questions? Should I continue? Go. Okay. So the first story I'm taking with me to you today is about staying true to yourself. And why I'm telling that is because I've seen so many founders losing themselves in this journey. and we should all be able to look ourselves in the mirror when all of this has ended. So to share a little personal story about that, when Mikkel and I founded the company, we were pretty much clueless about what we jumped into. We were both first-time founders, no technical background whatsoever, no business education, but we wanted to start a tech startup. Really good odds. But the passion for preventing work-related stress was so overwhelming for me at that time that it was part of my dreams, it was part of all my conversations, part of my thoughts. So even though I'm not religious, I want to say that I was blessed in a way, because my wife gave birth to our first son 6 months after we founded Voba. And when I saw him for the first time, I just realized that there was something much, much bigger than my company. And that was huge for me. And I remember I promised my wife, because she knows that I'm kind of crazy, and she said to me, like, as much discipline you have with building your startup, because she knows when I do something, I do it 200%. As much discipline you have to have with your family, or else I'll leave. Boom. So, and it's good to have someone that does that to me, because or else I'm like, phew, I'm just away. But when I look back, I could have worked easily 24 hours. But I didn't. I've not been divorced. I kept the promise, and most importantly, I have been the present mom that I wanted to be. And when I look back, I can actually see, because I kept that promise, it has been my mental foundation to overcome any high-risk situation. Why it's so freaking important to prioritize your family and your friends and everything, because they are the mental foundation for everything that you do. That is my personal opinion. But this story hopefully tells you that you don't have to work 80 hours a week to be a success as an entrepreneur. I've sadly seen too many brilliant entrepreneurs burn out because they tapped into this myth. And we could see it in the statistics. Over 50% are directly suffering from stress and burnout. But when that is said, I truly believe that it's possible to build a big business and maintain your mental health, but it requires that you stay true to yourself, stay true to your promises, your friends, your family, everything you have around you, and most importantly, that you tie your identity to other things, please promise me, than being an entrepreneur. That was the first story. So the second one I have with me has been talked about a lot this evening, but it's a story about acknowledging your limitations. And when I look back at my journey, I have always known that Mikkel and I are first-time founders. So of course, we haven't taken the journey before, and we have a lack of knowledge of where the ship is sailing. So what I did was to surround myself with good advisors and business people that has taken the journey before, that I could always call and ask for help and say, I'm seriously in trouble right now, what to do? Among that, I want to mention, he's not here tonight, but Anders Kjær, credit to him, because he has really helped me. And now Helle Ut is taking over. And that was just truly amazing. But to give you an example of a more business-wise decision, we have to go back 2 years ago, when we have bootstrapped for like 4 years, and we started to see good traction and product market fit. And then a good business friend of mine said, well, it looks good, and but maybe you should know your numbers a bit better. And then you can do two things. You can be stubborn and say, no, I have it all under control. Or you could be grateful for the advice and do something about it. So what I did was to reach out to what I would call the best financial advisor in Copenhagen, Toft & Co. And they helped me with creating a so-called financial investment cockpit. Sounds fancy, right? But it's really just a very investor-friendly way of budgeting that show your potential now, but also your future potential with a lot of assumptions and everything. I could never have made such a detailed financial cockpit. Never. And maybe it sounds very simple, but it has actually paid back 100 times because there has never been a question from investors I felt I couldn't back up with numbers. So in a way, it has really given me a mental control as a CEO to have that financial deck in place, and that is just one example of what you can do and why it's so important to ask for help. So Mads also talked about this. You are not stronger than your team. And maybe it sounds a little bit common sense, but it actually took me quite a while to understand it. Why I want to share it with you. I think when we started, I have hired or employed all my brilliant friends from philosophy. They were not so experienced, so there was no causal connection to business performance. And that is just one example of my bumpy road of recruiting. So you learn, but it's how you bounce back, right? So 6 months ago, a more positive story. We closed a funding round with Pre-Seed Ventures, and we could do two things here. According to the team, we could hire 10 juniors, or we could maybe hire fewer but more experienced ones. So we decided to invest more heavily in our C-level. We managed to attract a very skilled and experienced CTO and head of sale that has taken the journey before we are heading at right now. And in the 6th year of my business experience here, I've never seen so much performance, so much progress, and most importantly, how the theme thrives. So, if I could give my prior self, founder self, a little advice, I would say, Malene, you can't over-invest in your people. Please promise me not to hire your friends, but more experienced ones. So, and this has also been mentioned a lot, so I will spare you, but it's also a little darling of mine, because when we look at the horrible statistics, we have to look at ourselves as founders. And I, in a way, I want to say today that I actually understand why so many founders are struggling with stress and burnout, because Mads also talked a little bit about this. When you step into the venture world, it's not for fun. We are talking triple, double. It is 300% growth 2 years in a row, and then 200% 2 years after that. What kind of superhuman demand is that? Like, that is crazy, right? So, but more importantly, we can do something as founders. I talked a little bit about not tapping into these unhealthy myths, because what happens if we don't take care of ourselves as founders? That is one thing. We can't care for our employees. And if our employees don't feel cared for, they leave. and they also burn out. So my shout out to all of you next generation founders and all founders here is just to make it a moral obligation to take care of yourself. Not only for yourself, but also for your family and friends, employees, and your business. So, to round up, just to give some energy in the room, I have given you a glimpse of my story today. And objectively, I would say I have experienced a lot of chaos in my life. But the biggest lesson in life I have learned in a way is that all storms has made me stronger. And life is never going to be less chaotic. But the beautiful thing is that we can actually train ourselves to create calmness inside when life puts us to our knees. And I truly believe that all of you founders out here have the ability to become that eye of the storm. But it requires that you put your mental health first, and then I can guarantee you that you have 10 times higher success rate with building both the life and the business life that you're dreaming about right now. Thank you.
Thank you.